This is going to be one of the biggest questions for the Steelers moving forward. If they do not win big for this upcoming season, what do they do with Mike Tomlin? Do they let him go after this season, or do they try to bring him back? And when I mean win big, is to go out there and win a playoff game or two. And I get it. They're in a tough division with the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and the Baltimore Ravens. I fully understand that. But this is a Steelers organization. They're used to winning. They have 6 Super Bowl championships. And they did not have this much of disappointing losses over and over again in the playoffs when they had Bill Cowher as their head coach. Now, I'm not going to come on here and say that Mike Tomlin is a better head coach than Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher is a better head coach than Mike Tomlin, because Bill Cowher is not coming back. This is about Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is still a very good head coach in the NFL. He's never had a losing season, and that is impressive. The problem with the Steelers, it seems like they've hit a brick wall. They can't go past the first round. They have not had a playoff win since 2017. That is 7 years ago. Now, granted, the quarterback situation has not been the best in the last couple of years. Big Ben, those last 3 years, he did not look the same. That elbow injury that he suffered against the Seattle Seahawks really made him age like milk in those last couple of seasons. He did not look good. Kenny Pickett was a bust. They had the right weapons around him. Terrible offensive coordinator, yes, but Kenny Pickett was no good. And Mitch Trubisky wasn't going to save anyone. So I understand that the quarterback position has not been good. But Mike Tomlin has always prided himself on 2 things: run the football and stop the run. That's an outdated philosophy in today's NFL. Yes, you have to run the football because it travels, but at the same time, you have to go out there and pass the football as well. It seems like they have just forgot about just trying to go out there and be creative with their passing concepts, and they just go completely generic, and they just try to run the football as much as possible. One thing that Mike Tomlin has not done a good job of over the last couple of years is hiring the right offensive coordinator. Their last solid offensive coordinator was Todd Haley, and he was the offensive coordinator when they had Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. They let him go because they could not score in the red zone, and Big Ben was having problems with him behind the scenes. They hired Randy Fichtner, terrible offensive coordinator, but they still made the NFL playoffs. Then they went into the Matt Canada era, one of the worst offensive coordinators in Steelers history. He's going to go down as one of the worst offensive coordinators in NFL history. Yes, Kenny Pickett was no good, but the play calling did not help out anyone. Players would regress from week to week underneath Matt Canada, and it took a long time for the Steelers to let him go. He should have been fired after this first season, but Mike Tomlin is stubborn. The one thing that makes Mike Tomlin great is the same thing that hurts him in the long run as well, is that stubbornness and the willing not to change. Omar Khan has came in with a brand new philosophy. Go out there and be aggressive as possible in free agency and try to make as many trades as possible to go out there and straighten up the roster. And they have done a great job of that. But Mike Tomlin has to go out there and stop the Steelers organization from playing down the competition. And it's more than just Coach Tomlin in that situation. Even back with Bill Cowher, they would play down the competition and they would lose to teams that were below 500, but they didn't lose like this. The Steelers would go out there one week and they'll just put up a complete dogfight against the Kansas City Chiefs. They may lose in that battle, but they'll stick in that game. Then the next week, they'll go against a team like the New York Jets that at the time would have a guy like Zach Wilson, and they would just look like they were not ready. They're looking forward to the next week. You can't do that. You have to take it on a week-by-week basis. Mike Tomlin does a great job of adjusting the defense. It's the offense. And they're bringing over a brand new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, who did a very good job when he was the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. One thing about him, he specializes in the run game, offensive line, and tight ends as well. Ryan Tannehill had his best years of his career underneath Arthur Smith. You're hoping the same for Russell Wilson. And I do hope that Mike Tomlin has hit on this offensive coordinator. Now, when he was the coach with the Atlanta Falcons, he did not do good, but he was the head coach and the main offensive play caller. We tend to forget when a guy is a head coach and the main offensive play caller, or he's the head coach and the main defensive play caller, those guys are dealing with the entire team. Arthur Smith only has to worry about one unit, and that's the offense. And you can look at what they did in the NFL draft, from drafting Troy in the first round, then getting Dak Frazier and Mason McCormick as well. They want to run the football. They have not been able to run the football at all over the last couple of years. When Mike Munchak left this organization, and he's the former offensive line coach, He left. He went to the Denver Broncos. The offensive line was no longer the same. And they still had some of those big veterans. They had Andrew Villanueva, Maurice Pouncey at the center position, Roman Foster as well. But when he left, the offensive line did not look the same. And especially when those veterans started to leave and they started to retire and deal with their own things, the offensive line turned over to a new leaf. I like the offensive line unit that they have right now. With Troy in the first round, a very good tackle that can come in and make an immediate impact. You drafted Broderick Jones, and last year's draft class, just play that kid at right tackle. They tried to switch him to left tackle. It didn't work. He's a true right tackle. Was very good when he was at the right tackle position. Keep him there. James Daniels is a solid guard to have alongside Broderick Jones. Zach Frazier will be the starting center. Any center in the NFL is a better center than Mason Cole. So with them releasing him and bringing in some new blood, that's a great pickup. Then you also have Mason McCormick at the left guard position, a very big, imposing guard that you drafted in the 4th round, and he can come in and give you very good production as well. So this offensive line, they're big, they're versatile. Troy can play left guard, left tackle. Broderick Jones can play left tackle, but he's a better right tackle. Mason McCormick can play center, he can play guard. So I like what they've done with this offensive line. It may take some time for these guys to gel together because a lot of these guys on this team, they're young. But if they can just go out there and just establish a line of scrimmage with the good running backs that they have in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, I think you're setting Russell Wilson up for success. And one interesting thing about Russell Wilson, 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions. That's better than Kenny Pickett, and that's better than Mitch Trubisky as well by a mile. The thing is with Russell Wilson, he had 20 passing touchdowns to just 1 interception in the red zone this season. Some of the best red zone numbers you will see from a starting quarterback in the NFL. That is great. So when I look at that, just put Russell Wilson in situations to where it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. He just have to go out there and throw the football all over the field. I don't expect for Russell Wilson to go out there and have over 30 passing touchdowns because that's not going to be winning football for the Steelers. And Mike Tomlin is not going to want to do that either. Russell Wilson is best in that role when he's at elite game manager. When you let the running backs do the work, you dump the football down to guys like George Pickens, and you let them make plays in space. And you can take a deep shot here and there. The one thing with Russell Wilson, he does not throw over the middle of the field enough. And that's not going to happen now because he's an older quarterback, but he's better than what you had. And another problem that I had with Mike Tomlin as well, Mason Rudolph was on the bench for so many years. He got a couple of starts here and there when Big Ben would be out or another quarterback would be out. But this man sat up there and he played Kenny Pickett until Kenny Pickett got hurt against the Cardinals. Then he put in Mitch Trubisky, who no one respected. Terrible quarterback. When Mason Rudolph came in those last 3 games and he outplayed both of them. He mismanaged that quarterback situation. That's not on anyone but Coach Tomlin. That's on him. And you can say, hey, Mason Rudolph didn't look that good in practice. That may be true. But at the same time, Mason Rudolph really never got a true shot with the Steelers organization. And that was on Coach Tomlin. And that was a guy that was drafted before Kenny Pickett. And he was in the door way before Mitch Trubisky as well. I really wish they would have gave him a true opportunity to go out there and be the starting quarterback. And I'm not saying that he was going to go out there and be the franchise guy, but he was a better option. It's crazy to think about because their defense has been so good over the last couple of years with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cameron Hayward that their offense has been so anemic and so abysmal that they've still been able to go out there and make the NFL playoffs. But they get exposed in the playoffs because their offense cannot go out there and score enough points. But I have confidence in Arthur Smith, not the head coach because he was terrible with the Falcons, but the offensive coordinator. He did a lot of good things with the Tennessee Titans. And I still think that there is a good quarterback there with Russell Wilson. You just don't want him to go out there and cook per se. So many Seattle Seahawks fans were saying that many years ago with Russell Wilson. Let him cook. No, you don't do that. You work off that run game, put him into play action, and do what Sean Payton did. And Russell Wilson did not have a terrible season. His last season with the Denver Broncos. I can really make the case that his stint with the Denver Broncos was never supposed to happen. When they hired Nathaniel Hackett, they were hoping that they were going to get Aaron Rodgers. So he went to a system that was not predicated for him. It was not made for him at all. That first year, he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, tied with Justin Fields. And yes, they both hold on to the football for too long, but he did not have enough time in the pocket. And that second season, it was pretty much over with. They didn't go out there and just pay Russell Wilson all that money to just be a game-changing quarterback. They were looking for a franchise quarterback. And he did not fit Sean Payton's system. but he fits Arthur Smith's system. And he's going to take care of the football. The most interceptions that he's had in a season were a couple of years ago when he had 13. But he also had 40 passing touchdowns in that season as well. So when I look at Russell Wilson, very good quarterback that can come in and manage the game. And if he is not your guy, you have Justin Fields. Like I mentioned before, they both hold on to the football for too long. Justin Fields is the wild card. If Russell Wilson slips up for the first 3 to 4 games, do you plug in Justin Fields then? And you have to really ask that question because Steeler fans were not having mercy on Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. They were chanting for Mason Rudolph's name. So if Russell Wilson does struggle, do you go into that situation with Justin Fields? I think right now Justin Fields is definitely a better athlete than Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson is a better passer and he has more experience on his side than Justin Fields. And he's a smarter quarterback as well. When you look at Russell Wilson over the last 2 to 3 years, even though he was taking a lot of sacks, he would throw the football away and he would live to go out there and play another down. That was not the case early on in his career with the Seattle Seahawks. I think that Russell Wilson wanted to be a true franchise quarterback. He wanted to be treated like guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady at the time, and even Patrick Mahomes. He's just not in the same conversation as those guys. But the Steelers, they don't need that quarterback play coming from Russell Wilson because of how talented that they are. But I do have some concerns with this offense. George Pickens is phenomenal. I predicted this over a year ago. I said that he would be the true number 1. They would ship Deontay Johnson out. They did exactly that. 63 receptions on the season with 1,140 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, and he averaged 18 yards a catch. Phenomenal. But he's your only valuable wide receiving option. Yes, you have Pat Freiermuth, who I will talk to in just a couple of minutes. I'll talk about him in just a couple of minutes. But when I look at George Pickens, phenomenal wide receiver. Who else can come in and help him out? Your number 2 wide receiver right now, you can say it's Calvin Austin III, did not do much in his second year. And I like Calvin Austin III. He has good speed, can stretch the field, but you have to do more than that to be successful in the NFL. Only 17 catches for 180 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. And he had a great game against the Las Vegas Raiders. I hope that he can develop. And the one thing about the Steelers organization, they can develop wide receivers. They've drafted a lot of good wide receivers. Martavius Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown. All those guys came in and made an immediate impact. We're going to see if Calvin Austin can be that number 2. And if he can't, you did draft Roman Wilson as well. A very good wide receiver coming over from Michigan. Did not put up the best numbers, but Michigan ran the football a lot. A big play wide receiver, has great hands, has had only 1 drop in the last 2 years. And it really wasn't on him because J.J. McCarthy overthrew him and he got his hand on it and they counted that as a drop. And he has great speed, can play inside and outside the slot. But he's a great slot wide receiver coming out of college. I think he can come in and he could possibly be that number 2. Then you also have guys like Cordell Patterson, who I think is just a very good, versatile player. Struggles to stay healthy, but you want to put him in the backfield, put him inside the slot. He can give you solid numbers, but he's not going to make a true immediate impact in the receiving game. He's more so a guy that can get you some big chunk plays in the kick and punt return game. That's why they have him with this organization. Then you also look at a guy like Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson. You look at guys like that. Can they come in and fill out the roster? Can they give you good production? So the wide receiving room does give me some concern, but I have some confidence in George Pickens for sure. If they start to double team him, who else can go out there and get open against single coverage, especially press man coverage? Because you'll be asking a lot out of Roman Wilson. But like I mentioned before, the counter argument, the Steelers always develop great wide receivers. So we will see. Pat Freiermuth has not looked as good as he looked in Big Ben's last season. Big Ben used him a lot. They have to make this kid the number 2 option alongside George Pickens. I was just talking about just being a number 2 wide receiver. The number 2 option in the receiving game has to be Pat Freiermuth if he can stay healthy. Has struggled with concussions in the past. But I think that Pat Freiermuth fits the system of Arthur Smith. It would have been very interesting to see if this team would go out there and if they were to sign Jonnu Smith, but he's now with the Miami Dolphins. And the reason why I say that, Jonnu Smith is a favorite of Arthur Smith. He would have came in and immediately gave the Steelers a lot of juice in that tight end room. But I like Pat Freiermuth a lot. They just have to give him the football more. Kenny Pickett could not do that. Mr. Trubisky could not do that. Mason Rudolph tried to do that in the last 3 games, and he did get him involved more. But just get him involved more in the receiving game. Very good blocking tight end as well. They have Darnell Washington. The thing is with Darnell Washington, he is just such a good blocking tight end. He could be a very good red zone threat because he is 6'6". We will see, but I don't think that he can go out there and just be a true star tight end in the receiving game, but we will see. And it opens this up as well. They can run a lot of 2 tight end sets. And basically what happens in that situation, it condenses the field so you don't have to worry about turnovers coming from a guy like Russell Wilson. You can just have 1 to 2 wide receivers on the field, have those 1 to 2 wide receivers on the field, have those 2 tight ends out there in a situation to where you can just run the football behind Darnell Washington or behind Pat Freiermuth with Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. And one more thing before I switch over to the defense. They did not exercise a 5th-year option with Najee Harris. He's had over 1,000 yards rushing every single season in his career. But funny enough, Jaylen Warren came out and it seems like he has more explosiveness in that run game and he's more valuable at times than Najee Harris. As a matter of fact, he is a more explosive running back because he is faster and he has better hands coming out the backfield. It's not me saying that Najee Harris is not a good running back at all because they're going to give him the football 20, 25 times in a game. But you have a system similar to the Dallas Cowboys a couple of years ago, where they had Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. The thing is with Najee Harris, he can average 4 to 5 yards a carry. The thing is with Jaylen Warren, when he comes in and the defense is tired of getting beat up by Najee Harris, you can do a toss play and he can get you a 50-yard rushing touchdown. That's basically what happened against the Cleveland Browns when they lost that game, but he was the only semblance of offense in that game against the Browns. So I like the running back tandem that they have. But that is something to look out for, is Najee Harris long-term with the Steelers. And I don't have a problem with them not exercising that 5th-year option because you guys know how I feel about running backs. If you're not in the same conversation with guys like Christian McCaffrey, if you can't go out there and be a top wide receiver if need be and still be a very productive runner, there's really no reason to go out there and pay a running back a lot of money. And that 5th-year option was going to be very expensive because he was a former 1st-round pick. And Omar Khan did not draft him. Kevin Colbert did. But I really like Najee Harris. He definitely will have a place with the Steelers organization long term if he does want to stay. But I like the running back tandem as a whole. As far as the defense, this is what Mike Tomlin has done a great job of over the last couple of years. They have struggled immensely in that middle linebacking room. They've had so many injuries. They haven't looked the same since Ryan Shazier went down. Ryan Shazier was a very good playmaker, and it was time for him to get paid. And as soon as that happened, he hurt his back. He never played another down in the NFL. But it seems like he's doing okay now. They've struggled at that position. They even traded up in the 1st round, something the Steelers rarely do. They did that a couple of years ago to select Devin Bush. Solid rookie season. After that, he did not look the same. Part of it is because he tore his ACL, and it seems like he was just afraid of tearing it again. He did not look the same. They moved off of him, and it has been a major hole in the middle of that defense. They signed Cole Holcomb in last year's free agency class. Very good linebacker. The problem is he struggles with injuries. And this season, he was playing very good. Against Tennessee Titans, he hurt his knee. And he may be out for the first couple of weeks of this upcoming season. And if he is, expect for Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen to get a lot of reps in that room. Peyton Wilson is a guy that they selected in the 3rd round, an inside linebacker. Very good. Great linebacker. The problem is he's dealt with injuries as well in college. He's missing an ACL in one of his knees. And he has some shoulder injuries as well. But over the last couple of years, he stayed healthy. You can't tear ACL if you don't have an ACL. So that's the one benefit of not having it. Very fast, very good against the pass as well. You can make the case that he was the best pass covering linebacker in this year's draft class. If he can go out there and he can stay healthy and he can give the Steelers very good production, it's going to take the defense up to the next tier. Because let's remember, when Cole Holcomb went down, they had to bring in Quan Alexander. And Quan Alexander, he went out there, he tore his Achilles. So it's one of those situations with the Steelers, they just can't get that room healthy enough. The talent has been there. But to get Patrick Queen and to have Peyton Wilson, I like that a lot for the Steelers. I'm just really hoping that Cole Holcomb can come back. And the reason why I'm hoping that is because he is a very good tackling linebacker. And he was very good to Washington Commanders. It's just the health with him. Patrick Queen is not the best linebacker as some people are saying that he is. They're saying that he was a top inside linebacker playing alongside Roquan Smith. That is true because he played alongside Roquan Smith. Before Roquan Smith got there, he did not look as good. It was many times on film that Najee Harris is stiff arming that man or he's getting blocked by a fullback by the Cleveland Browns. Very solid linebacker on his own, but he will not have the same impact with the Steelers organization that he had with the Baltimore Ravens. That's just my opinion. But I do think that he will give you some very good plays, and it gives you stability in that inside linebacking room. Could he come over with the Steelers and prove me completely wrong and be a top inside linebacker? Sure, he can. And I'm not trying to hate on Patrick Queen. I'm not saying that he's terrible by any means, but I do feel like he is a bit overrated. And the way that a lot of people are speaking of him. We have to remember, a couple of years ago, before Roquan Smith got there, they were on pace to decline his fifth-year option. I like the fact that he is with the Steelers, but let's just lean in with some caution. If he's going to be your top inside linebacker, you should be concerned there. But he's never played with pass rushers like Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt. And I want to talk about those guys as well. This defensive line is very good. They're very big. TJ Watt is the best defensive player in the NFL. 19 sacks on the season, 4 forced fumbles, 1 interception. The problem is with TJ, when he goes down, the defense does not look the same. Granted, he has such a huge impact, and that's how great he is. But it seems like they stopped making adjustments, and they don't know what to do on the field. And you can see it in that Buffalo Bills game. They forgot how to tackle in general. And that's one thing that the Steelers have to work on as well. And it's really just tackling wide receivers in the slot. They've struggled against doing that in the last 3 to 4 years, especially in the playoffs. But they have to find a way, just in case TJ Watt goes down, to get more pass rush. Alex Highsmith is a phenomenal pass rusher. The sacks were down this season, but the pass rushing numbers were up. And it was very confusing because Coach Austin, the defensive coordinator, basically used him as a pass covering linebacker at times, which really pissed me off at times. Because he is such a great pass rusher. Just put his hand in the dirt and just let him go back there and get the opposing quarterback. I understand you want to flip him out in coverage at times. He did have a pick 6, 2 forced fumbles on the season, 2 interceptions, and only 7 sacks. But you have to just go out there and let him do what he is best at. Let him be that pass rusher, flip him back in coverage as well. But just don't do it as much for this upcoming season because they're a better defense when they have TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith both trying to go out there and get the quarterback. And I expect for them to just put both those guys' hands in the dirt for the majority of the season if Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen can both pan out. And you also have Cameron Hayward. He's holding out of camp right now. He wants more money. I feel like Cameron Hayward is an overpay. I like Cameron Hayward a lot, but he is getting older, and he's not the same player, especially when TJ Watt goes down. Very good against the run, but the pass rushing numbers have taken a dip over the last 3 to 4 years. The sack numbers were up a couple of years ago, but the pass rushing numbers were down. And this is one thing that you have to look at on film. Just because a player is getting sacks doesn't mean that he's going back there and doing all the heavy lifting. That is coming from TJ Watt. And I'm not trying to disrespect Cameron Hayward. Phenomenal a couple of years ago and can still give you very good production now. I just do not agree with him holding out of camp and trying to get more money because the Steelers are already paying him a lot of money right now. You have Larry Ogunjobi, solid run stopper. I have nothing negative to say about him. He is what he is. May get you some pass rushes here or there, but he's a very good run stopper. You also have Keanu Benton. This is the guy that's going to come in and replace Cameron Hayward long term. Because even if they pay Cameron Hayward right now, he's not going to play for the next 4 to 5 years. And if he does, he may just be a rotational defensive lineman. Keanu Benton, very good. 2 forced fumbles on the season, 1 sack, but his pass rushing numbers were up, and he was on a limited snap count as well because they had him in rotations. You go out there and you give him enough snaps, he can go out there, pressure the quarterback as much as possible, and can stop the run. I like him a lot. He's going to have a breakout season for his upcoming season. The secondary always give me some concerns. That's just me having PTSD of what happened a couple of years ago with Artie Burns and how terrible this secondary was. I'm worried about what happens if Joey Porter Jr. does go down. I like Joey Porter Jr. a lot. He did have a lot of holding penalties early on in this season, but in the back half of the season, he looked better. And especially in the Buffalo Bills game, he looked solid until he got knocked out of that game. But I like him a lot at the cornerback position. He's their true number 1. They traded to go get Dante Jackson. They traded Deontay Johnson for him. I like Dante Jackson. It's the injuries that continue to hurt him. And the thing is with Dante Jackson, very good press man corner. He will get beat at times, but he's very fast. I don't like him holding up against guys like Jamar Chase. You put him on T. Higgins, it may get a little ugly in that situation as well. But if he's on the number 2 wide receiver, because not every team is going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the outside, you're going to have a drop off from that number 1 to that number 2. I like the pickup if he can stay healthy. Mika Fitzpatrick dealt with so many injuries this season. He missed a good portion of this season. He missed some games, but he was able to come back and he looked solid, did not look the same. But I like Mika Fitzpatrick a lot. One of the best cover safeties in the NFL when he's fully healthy. I would like for the Steelers to go out there and possibly talk to Justin Simmons and try to bring him in. A very good safety from the Denver Broncos. I do not know why he's still in the free agency list. It's a chance that the Steelers will try to bring him in. We will see. But you have Deshaun Elliott. This was a guy that got suspended for the last couple of games in the season. The reason why is because he had a hit on Michael Pittman Jr., the wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. It was a bang play, but as soon as he came back, the secondary did look better. And when he was out, they basically put Patrick Peterson at safety, and he looked okay. Patrick Peterson is no longer with the Steelers, by the way. So Deshaun Elliott is a very good, valuable option. 7 pass deflections, 1 interception. I just feel like Justin Simmons can come in and make the secondary look even better because he's a veteran. But that's just me. But at the end of the day, the Steelers have to go out there and win a playoff game or two. Winning one playoff game will save Coach Tomlin. Because the one thing that we know about the Steelers, they don't like to move off of coaches. If they gave Matt Canada all that time, they will definitely give Mike Tomlin more time if he wins a playoff game in the wild card. But my things are this with Tomlin. I'm going to reiterate this. You can't go out there and lose to teams that only have 3 wins on the season and relating to the season because of how tough their schedule is on the back half of this upcoming season. But if they can go out there, win a playoff game or two, Mike Tomlin's job is definitely safe. And if they do miss the NFL playoffs, you have a lot of people saying they have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. You have to stop the excuses. This is a guy that's a very good head coach, but they've hit that wall right now. They need to get past that wall. And if they can't, it'll be time to move on from Coach Tomlin. And I always get comments, well, who would they hire? Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. You can go talk to him. You can go talk to the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions as well. Try to bring him in. It's coaches all over the board. A lot of people had the same questions with Bill Cowher. Who would they bring in now that Bill Cowher stepped away from football? You have to go find those diamonds in the rough. And my thing is with Omar Khan, I trust this man. He's brought in very good talent. He's drafted very well. He's brought in some very good players. If you're having him go out there and he's making the final decision on a brand new head coach, I have full trust. But right now, the Steelers do look good on paper. You're just in a tough division. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Steelers for the upcoming season? And will this be Mike Tomlin's last season for the Steelers? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, we want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.